Finished up to the Wajibat. You finished that, yeah? Or Sunnah Wajibat. Yep. So we did the arkan, the pillars, the pillars of Hajj. And now up to the Wajibat. So inshallah. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. It's writing. It's gonna cause a lot of problems. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أعطينا مفيدة إن شاء الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم افتح علينا حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك وعلمنا من لدنك علما ينفعنا في الدين والدنيا يا كريم. All praise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah, we are continuing Kitab al-Hajj, the book of Hajj. And as we mentioned that in the Shafi'i madhab, the majority of ibadat, when there's something compulsory, it's an integral of that ibadah. It's a pillar of that ibadah. It's a part of the ibadah. If it's left out intentionally, the act of worship isn't complete. It needs to be repeated. So in Salah, reciting Fatiha, doing ruku', doing sujood, in the last tashahhud, these are all parts of Salah. In most of the other madhab, you find that they have something called Wajibat, something called arkan, compulsory parts and pillars, and they're both compulsory. But the compulsory parts, if you leave them out, the Salah is not invalid. In the Shafi'i madhab, this is the case in Hajj. So in Hajj, you're going to taste what other madhabs are tasting in every single Salah every single day. Okay. For us, it's more straightforward. Anyway, in Hajj, there's compulsory actions. If you leave them out, your Hajj is still correct. Your Hajj is still valid. And then there are actions that you need to do in order for your Hajj to be considered Hajj, like standing in Arafah. We took them all in the last class. Standing in Arafah, doing your Ihram, making an intention, doing the Tawaf of Hajj, doing the Sa'i of Hajj. These parts can't be left out. And also trimming your hair. Trimming your hair. Now, Abu Shuja rahimahullah ta'ala says after this, وواجبات الحج غير الأركان ثلاثة أشياء الإحرام من الميقات ورمي الجمار الثلاث والحلق.
There are three obligatory actions during Hajj other than the integral. One must A. Enter Ihram at the proper place and time, Miqat. B. Throw stones at the three pillars, and C. Shave your head.
I think I said shaving your head in Arkan, it's in Wajibat. And then he says رحمه الله تعالى والسنن الحج سبع الإفراد وهو تقديم الحج على العمرة والتلبية وطواف القدوم والمبيت بمزدلفة وركعة الطواف والمبيت بمنى وطواف الوداع ويتجرد الرجل عند الإحرام عن المخيط ويلبس إزارا ورداء أبيضين. Can everyone please mute their microphone?
7 actions are recommended during Hajj. 1 should 1. Perform Hajj before Umrah, Ifrad. 2. Say Labbaik Allahumma Labbaik. 3. Perform the arrival circumambulation. 4. Stay the night at Muzdalifah. 5. Perform the 2 rak'ah circumambulation prayer. 6. Stay the night at Mina. And 7. Perform the farewell circumambulation. Men divest themselves of stitched garments upon entering Ihram and wear a white waist wrapper and mantle.
Okay, so before we get into this, now you might notice that I mentioned shaving your head in the Arkan, and Abu Shuja just mentioned it here in the Wajibat. The reason is that shaving your head can be understood both ways. You can't finish your Hajj without shaving your head. You need to do that, okay? So in that sense, it's a part of your Hajj. That's why you mentioned in the Arkan. That's basically why you mentioned it. But there's a big difference between our scholars if shaving your head is, it's a pillar itself, or it's just a means to get out of the Haram, basically. There's a lot of difference between the scholars when it comes to that. So you'll find some scholars mention it in the first part that we mentioned, some will mention it as a wajib. Okay. Like I mentioned, Hajj is one of the few ibadat where you have wajibat and arkan. Now, the wajibat, obligatory acts, other than the arkan, are 6. The first one is Ihram from the Miqat. So Ihram itself is a pillar. Ihram itself is a pillar. But doing Ihram from the Miqat. What's a Miqat? The place that the Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam dedicated for Ihram. Doing it from the Miqat is compulsory, but not a pillar of Hajj. So Ihram from the Miqat and not delaying it past the Miqat is one of the wajibat. Now, Miqat, like I said, is the place that Prophet ﷺ allocated for people to enter the state of Ihram from when approaching Mecca. Okay. Now, I want us to have a look at what the Miqat look like, inshallah. If we look here, you see the Prophet ﷺ, he described a few different places to be Miqat. So, the more further Miqat, the faraway Miqats are Dhul-Hulayfa, which is in Medina, and then Yalamlam is also not that close. But Dhul-Hulayfa is the furthest Miqat. I think it's 400 and something kilometers from Mecca. The Prophet ﷺ, when he mentioned these mawaqit, he said that the Miqat of the people of Medina is Dhul-Hulayfa. The Miqat of the people of Iraq is this. The Miqat of the people of Najd is Qarn al-Manazil. He mentioned different Miqat of people coming from different directions of the universe. Okay. Now, are the directions that he mentioned all the directions that we can physically come up with? No, it's not the case. He mentioned the majority of countries where the Muslims would come to Mecca from. And then he left a few details for the scholars to make ijtihad, come to ijtihad and to study. So, if someone is coming from the direction close to the cities he mentioned, it's clear that they do Ihram from that Miqat. It's very clear. You're from Medina, you're from a city just before Medina, which is passing through Medina. You're from that direction, you're going to make do Ihram and go to it. Okay, you're from Riyadh, you're from a city next to Riyadh, or Najd, one of those areas which are Miqat from, Qarn al-Manazil. And like I said, it's pretty clear. And then the places in between these mawaqit, we need to explain how to do Ihram. But if you're going to pass by one of these on your way, you're going to pass by one of them while you're traveling, it's clear you do make Ihram from that Miqat. Most people go to Medina first and go to Mecca, khalas, they do Ihram from Medina. Even if they're coming from the other side of the world, you go to Medina first. On the way to Mecca, you're going to pass by the Miqat, you do Ihram from there. Okay. Now, I also want us to memorize the circle that's drawn here. That's going to help us later on, inshallah, understanding some of the details. Okay. So if someone doesn't have a miqat on their way to Hajj, okay, according to the Shafi'i madhab, they make ihram from a place parallel to the closest miqat. Okay, so the closest miqat to you is this miqat. See how far that is from Haram, you make ihram place you are, and that counts as a miqat. So you're trying to draw a line depending on where you are, and then that's where you make ihram from, according to the Shafi'i madhab. That's the first case. And because of that, in our madhab, a lot of the scholars consider Jeddah to be, even though it's not mentioned in the hadith. Why? Because it is the same, it's even further than most of the countries, unless coming from Medina. Some say unless coming from Yemen also. But most other directions, they are shorter than Jeddah. So if you're passing through Jeddah, a lot of our scholars, like Ibn Hajj al-Haythami, believe that you can make ihram from the airport of Jeddah, not from the end of the city, from the beginning of the city, from the airport, and the city is around the airport. It's about 90 km from it. Most of the market are 70, 80, 85 km from it. So 90 km is more than that. So the other case that I want to talk about is if someone lives closer to Mecca than the Miqat. Right? So someone lives 50 km from Mecca. There's no Miqat 50 km from Mecca, then they make ihram from their home. Their home is there, their miqat, and that is mentioned by the Prophet ﷺ. He says, هن لهن ولمن مر عليهن the miqat are from the people who, from that area, or the people who pass by that area, and then whoever is closer to Mecca than that, their miqat or their ihram is from their house. Okay, so inshallah, first miqat we'll talk about is the miqat of the people of Medina and Sham. Sham talks about Syria, about the area, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, this area, it's called Sham Arabic. So generally the people from Sham, north from Medina, people who are similar to Medina in their, they will usually pass by the Medina on the way to Mecca. The people of Sham have the same miqat as the people of Medina, and that is known as Dhul Hulayf. Another name for that miqat is Abyar Ali. And it looks like this. I'm sure a lot of us have seen this miqat before. If you ever go to Medina, I'm sure you've seen this place. It's a very big masjid, huge, and there's lots of showers and toilets there. And it's only 10 to 15 minutes from Haram. So it's just outside. It's outside Medina. We find this miqat. Most people stop there. As the Prophet ﷺ stopped when he was going to Hajj. The second miqat is the miqat of Egypt, Libya, Algeria, Tunisia, and that region. And that miqat is known as Al-Juhfa or Rabigh. Al-Juhfa or Rabigh. Some say it's around 187 km from Mecca. And I believe this miqat is not really used much today. Most people don't usually go past this miqat at all. Most of the lines that the airplanes take don't go past this miqat. There's around 3 main mawqif or 4 that are used today. One in Medina, also the one in Ta'if, and then the one in southern Mecca for people from Yemen pass by that. The next one is the miqat for the people of Yemen, South Mecca. That's known as the Yalamlam or Sa'diyah. Sa'diyah or Yalam. Sa'diyah is a city. Until now, the city is called Sa'diyah until today. It's called the Sa'diyah. And of course, it's a very famous miqat. It's a big masjid there, and it's similar to the other markets. More famous than this, and this is the miqat that if you're living in Saudi, you're gonna, or in the Gulf, you'll be passing by this all the time, is the miqat of the people of Najd. People of Najd. Najd is Riyadh in that area. Okay, and Najd and Hijaz and those areas is known as Qarb al-Manasil or As-Sayl al-Kabir. Sayl al-Kabir. It's in Ta'if. It's just before the mountain that you go down, and you go down. It's a huge mountain. You go down. Once you reach the bottom of the mountain, you're in Mecca. It's a beautiful drive. This Miqat is a very big Miqat, and it's probably the second main Miqat after Medina that people use. And it looks like that. So the shops around it. And after that, the last Miqat is the Miqat of the people from Iraq. And of course, Iran and other countries around that. And it's known as That Irq. That's what it's known as. And it's about 100 kilometers from Mecca. It's very close to the previous one, so it's both, they're both in Taif. They're both in Taif. But most people use the other one because there's not many roads around. I couldn't even find any clear pictures for it. So it's not really used much. I remember using it when I was young. Once. A small little area riding the carpets here, but it's not really big enough for pilgrims to use. Anyway, these are the mawaqit that the Prophet mentioned in the hadith. And like I said, if you don't pass down of these, you need to start by your If you make ihram from a distance that's further away than the Miqat, your ihram is accepted. As long as you don't make it from a place that's closer to Mecca than the Miqat. So you don't pass the Miqat until you've made it. So the safest thing, someone's on an airplane, for example, is to make it just before they get to the Miqat. Don't wait till you're physically at the Miqat to make ihram, because you might pass the Miqat without making it. Okay, the second Wajib, compulsory part of Hajj, is stoning the Jamarat. And stoning, as we know, if you've done Hajj before, is done 2 different times. It's done on the day of Eid for 1 Jamarat, and then it's done on the days of Tashriq, the days after Eid. 3 days after Eid, or 2 days if you're going to stay in Mina for 2 days. So every day you stone all 3 Jamarat, 7 stones at each Jamarat. 7, 7, 7. Now, when do we throw the Jamarat? The time for stoning enters every single day at Dhuhr. Once Dhuhr enters, you're allowed to stone for that day, and it doesn't end until the end of the day's Tashriq. So if I want to do today's stoning tomorrow morning, it's okay. If I want to do today's stoning tomorrow morning, it's okay. But I can't do today's stoning this morning. Wait till Dhuhr. So they now open the Jamarat in the morning. It's okay to use it for the previous day's Jamarat, but not for today's stoning. For the day, you need to wait till Dhuhr to start stoning. What are the conditions of stoning the Jamarat? The first condition is that it's done 7 times with stone. Okay, even if it's done with the same stone. So if you throw the same stone, you go in, you jump inside, you pick it up, okay, and you use it again, that's permissible. And the Shafi'i method is permissible, although it's better not to do that because the Hanbalis don't allow it. The Hanbali method doesn't allow, so it's better to stay away from that and just look for 7 stones and use them. That's it. So it needs to be done 7 times with a stone, whether it's the same stone or multiple stones. It has to be done with a stone. Also, it has to be done 7 times. You physically throw 7 times. If you throw all 7 at once, it doesn't count, other than 1. So it has to be 7 throwings, whether it's 1 stone or more than 1 stone, but 7 times you throw. Okay, it has to be done by hand when possible. By hand when possible. If not possible, then it can be done with a tool. So if someone has a sling or a gun or something, they can use that. But it should be done with the hand. And you don't authorize someone to stone on your behalf until you can't throw either by your hand, nor can you throw through tool, basically. And then you can authorize someone to stone on your behalf. A lot of people in Hajj now, they just authorize people for no reason. Just because they can't bother going to stone, they authorize someone to stone on their behalf. It doesn't count. It's not permissible to do that. Now, the third condition, this is very important, is that the goal of throwing is to throw the stones inside the area surrounding the poles, not at the pole itself, inside that deep area. Okay, so if you throw at the pole, but your intention is to throw the stone inside, then it's permissible. As long as you don't intend to just throw at the pole, not inside. It's okay to throw at the pole, but your intention is to throw inside the jamara, the ditch, that area. That's where you should throw the stones inside. That's where they have to go. Yeah, the pole is a physical thing that collapses and changes all the time. So we throw in that area, in the area where the Prophet used to throw. That's where we throw. Okay, and of course, the last condition is to throw in order. So the small jamara, the medium jamara, and the large jamara. You see the signs: the small one, the medium one, the large one. You start with the small one, and you end with the large one. The next wajib or compulsory act is to spend the night in Muzdalifah. Muzdalifah is a small mountain between Arafah and Mina. When you're going back to Mina after Arafah, you stop in a little area called Muzdalifah. Okay, so this happens after Arafah, not before. In the Shafi'i madhab, a person doing Hajj must stay in Muzdalifah for at least one moment after the middle of the night. Okay, so you have to be in Muzdalifah for one moment after the middle of the night. You have to stay the whole night. If you're there for a moment after the middle of the night, how do you count the night? From Maghrib to Fajr, you split that in half, the middle. After the middle of the night, you have to be there 1 moment, that's it, khalas, done your wajib. But it's, of course, sunnah to spend the night there. It's sunnah to take stones from Muzdalifah, to throw at the largest jamara. On the day of Eid, the stoning on the day of Eid, done for the largest jamara only, not for all 3 jamaras. It's sunnah to get your stones from Muzdalifah. Okay? But in the Shafi'i madhab, the rest of the stones, the rest of the days, are collected not from Muzdalifah, from a valley called Al-Muhassir. But if you collect it from Muzdalifah, it's fine. In the Hanbali madhab also, you should collect it all from Muzdalifah, and that's why most people do that. But whether you get your stones from Muzdalifah from any area, it's fine, as long as they're stones. They're not cement or something else that people use. I think people use date tips even stone them up. The fourth wajib, or compulsory part of Hajj, is to spend the night in Mina for the days of Tashriq. The night in Mina for the days of Tashriq. 3 days after Eid, where you throw Jamrat. What's your job in these days? To spend the night in Mina, and then once Zuhr enters every day, your daily stoning enters, and you have to stone 7 times each Jamrat every single day. That's all you have to do. The rest of the time you're relaxing, you're chilling, you're going to Mecca, you're in Tawaf, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. But this is your job for these 3 days: stone and to sleep in Mina. Now, the last night of 3 can be left out, can be exempted from it. But there's conditions to that, okay, which are to leave before Maghrib, okay, or to be on your way out before Maghrib. So before Maghrib, you leave. Okay. Now, maybe Maghrib Adhan might happen while you're still on your way. That's fine. But you left the physical leaving on your way out before Maghrib has ended. And also, you must spend 2 nights there. You must spend 2 nights before that in Mina, unless you're exempted for Islamic reason. There's reasons you can be exempted, of course. Like if there's fear in your body, fear in your wealth, you're working to provide drinking for the Hujjaj. But back in the day, the Prophet ﷺ, the people had to physically be there to give water and drink to the Hujjaj and take it from the wells. So those people are exempted from staying in Mina. And the scholars say in our madhab, even the reasons that you can miss Jum'ah and Jama'ah, miss your congregational prayer, are the same reasons you can miss, of course, staying in Mina for those days. The next wajib is Tawaf al-Wada. Tawaf al-Wada, the final Tawaf. Before you leave Mecca, saying Salaam alaikum to the Kaaba, you do a Tawaf, then you leave. The last thing you do in Mecca is do Tawaf. Okay. Now, this is compulsory, okay, when a person performing Hajj wants to leave Mecca. Is that a part of Hajj? It's not a part of Hajj. That's why most scholars don't mention it in Hajj. But because we're trying to mention the details, we're mentioning it. It's not really a part of Hajj, okay? And that's why Imam al-Ramli says, because it's not a part of Hajj, you need to intend tawaf when you start. The other tawaf that we do in Hajj, you don't need to intend. Your intention of Ihram counts. For your sa'i, for your tawaf, for everything. You don't need intention for every individual act in Hajj. But the last tawaf before you leave Mecca, it's not part of Hajj. So it needs individual intention according to your. And of course, this tawaf should be done by anyone who's traveling. Anyone who's traveling from Mecca, unless it's a non-praying sister, then she's exempted from doing this tawaf. The last compulsory act is to avoid the Muharramat, the things that are haram to do in Ihram. There's certain actions we're going to come that are haram to do in Ihram. So in Hajj, the most important thing to memorize in Hajj are the arkan, the pillars of Hajj, the integrals, the wajibat, compulsory actions, and the things that are haram to stay away from. If you get these three right, your Hajj is perfect, inshallah. It's that simple. The rest of the details are important, but like I said, these are the most important things to memorize when you're going to Hajj. Okay. We'll get to the Muharramat in detail, inshallah ta'ala, in the section. Any questions regarding what we just looked now? Okay. Just check the I'll just check the chat, inshallah ta'ala. There's a question about the 2 rak'ah after around tawaf. The 2 rak'ah then after tawaf, we're going to get to that now. We're going to get to that now, inshallah ta'ala. 2 rak'ah we prayed after tawaf, we get to that now, inshallah ta'ala. But other than that, inshallah, it's clear. Okay. He says after that, rahimahullah ta'ala, he mentions the Sunnah acts. We already read them. So, recommended or Sunnah acts in Hajj and Umrah. Okay? There are many Sunnah acts, many. And if you want to know all the Sunnah acts, you need to read a book, not in fiqh only, but you need to read a book specifically about Hajj. So our scholars in the Shafi'i madhab, you find that they wrote books specific to Hajj, even though they don't do that to Salah. In Salah, there's no specific books about Salah. There's only 1 or 2 books I know about Salah. Yeah? But in Hajj, there's specific books about Hajj. Why? Not because the rulings are Hajj. Rulings are simple, yeah? But because the Sunnah acts and the ways to perform Hajj and all of those details, they mention them in these books. They mention everything, the dua you should say, the way to approach the Kaaba, the adab you should come to the Kaaba. Hajj is one thing in your life. So they mention all of this in these books. Books of fiqh are not a place for that. Yeah? If we go into details of that, it's going to take us years to explain Hajj. And the most famous book in Hajj, I'm guessing it's probably translated to English, is the book of Imam al-Nawawi. Al-Nawawi wrote a book called Al-Manasik. Yeah? It's known as Al-Manasik. Manasik is a name for Hajj, rituals of Hajj. Most of the Shafi'i scholars explain this book. There were explanations on this book. There's many other books, of course, that are smaller than that book. It's simple. Okay. Generally, if a scholar writes a book about Hajj, it's called al-Mansik or Manasik in the history of Islam. Any scholar who writes a book of Hajj, they call it al-Manasik or al-Mansik. Okay, the first sunnah that we want to focus on is talbiyah. Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, labbaik la sharika lak, labbaik, alhamdu wa ni'matu lak wal mulk la sharika. It's sunnah to say this while you are on Ihram. Put on Ihram, yalla, start. Like a radio. Don't stop. Saying labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Now, the scholars say it's also sunnah to send salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ afterwards. In our madhab, they mention this. And this is taken from many different adillah, where in salah, in khutbah, it's compulsory to send salah upon the Prophet, usually when there's different type of dhikr in the ibadah. Yeah? So the scholars, they encourage to send salah upon the Prophet in any important acts of ibadah. Also, salah upon the Prophet is a reason for your dua to be answered. So there's general adilla to prove this. Our scholars say it's also sunnah to ask for Jannah and seek refuge from Jahannam afterwards. So if you're busy and you're saying talbiyah quickly, you just say labbaik Allahumma labbaik the wrong way. If you have time, you can add, Allahumma salli wa sallim Muhammad and Allahumma inni as'aluka al-jannah wa a'udhu min an-nar. That way you do the whole entire sunnah way of talbiyah. Talbiyah should be done as much as possible while in the state of ihram, except for tawaf and sa'i, the specific dua that you see in tawaf and sa'i. Also, when you stone the jamrah, it's sunnah to do takbir. Allahu Akbar. Do takbir while you stone the jamrah, not talbiyah. Now, in certain cases, talbiyah becomes extremely recommended. It becomes sunnah mu'akkada, yeah? Extremely recommended. The scholars say from those times when it's extremely recommended is when you're riding on something, yeah? Or you're going up a hill or down a hill, or like something changes. The state of situation changes. The change in the state you're in, you should do talbiyah, because you're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as things change around you. Also, if you see something you dislike, you should say labbaik inna al-aisha aishul akhirah. If you see something you dislike, you say labbaik inna al-aisha aishul akhirah. This is mentioned in some narrations as well. Who knows the meaning of what that means? Labbaik basically means that I'm responding, I'm here, I'm responding to your call, Ya Allah. Inna al-aisha aishul akhirah. The true life is the life of the hereafter. So the dunya is not going to distract me from what I'm doing. That's the meaning of inna al-aisha aishul akhirah. The true life is the life of the hereafter. Okay, the second sunnah is tawaf al-qudum. Tawaf al-qudum. The tawaf when you first get to Mecca. Now it's compulsory to do tawaf when you leave Mecca. But when you approach Mecca, sunnah to do tawaf. This is not a tawaf of Hajj that's compulsory. It doesn't count as a pillar of Hajj. It's sunnah. Okay? Now, the scholars say it's only sunnah for a person doing Hajj without Umrah. Okay, without Umrah. Okay, or combining Hajj and Umrah together. So this person, if you combine Hajj and Umrah, do Ihram, or you do Ifrad by doing Hajj alone, how many tawafs do you have to do in Hajj? How many times? We talked about in the last class. Once, yeah. So if you're doing Hajj alone, there's one tawaf in Hajj, there's one sa'i in Hajj. Yeah? That's it. If you're combining Hajj and Umrah, one tawaf counts for both. One sa'i counts for both. Okay, so it's sunnah to add an extra tawaf when you get to Mecca. Okay. If you're doing tamattu means you start with Umrah, you finish your Umrah, and then you do Hajj. Yeah, you start with Umrah, you finish it, then you do Hajj after that. No, in this case, you should start with your Umrah. You get to Mecca, you start with your Umrah straight away. Yeah. So if you're doing Hajj alone, you should do this sunnah tawaf. When you get to Mecca, you do tawaf, which is sunnah tawaf. Okay, now when a person gets in contact with the Kaaba, the first time you get in contact with the Kaaba, you should say, اللهم زد هذا البيت تشريفا وتعظيما ومهابة وزد من شرفه وكرمه من حجه واعتمره تشريفا وتكريما وتعظيما وبرا اللهم أنت السلام السلام فحينا بالسلام. This dua, you hear some people saying it when they say Kaaba. Basically, just a dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes the Kaaba even more honored, and gives it more of a heavy weight in the hearts of the Muslims, and blesses the people who respect the Kaaba and take care of the Kaaba. It's sunnah to also do 2 rak'ah of Ihram when entering into the state of Ihram. Yeah. So when do we do 2 rak'ah? Before we go into Ihram. Before we go into Ihram. So we pray 2 rak'ah and then we make Ihram. We do the intention after praying 2 rak'ah. Because of that, it's the time that you're not allowed to pray in. This prayer doesn't count. So you're not allowed to do this prayer. We've mentioned that in Salah. Yeah? Why? Because the reason that makes it permissible to pray in the time during this prayer has to be done before the prayer. If the reason is going to happen after you pray, then don't pray it in the time you're not supposed to pray. So the 2 rak'ah of Ihram are done before making Ihram. Alright, and then Sunnah 2 rak'ah after Tawaf. After Tawaf. So do Tawaf. Once we finish, we pray 2 rak'ah. It's best to pray them behind the Miqam of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Place where Ibrahim alayhi salam stood to build the Kaaba. If not, do it inside the masjid. Okay? If not, do it inside the Mecca. If not, do it anywhere on the face of the earth. And the scholars say it doesn't expire until it is possible. So if you forgot to pray it, now you can get up and pray 2 rak'ah. Or we'll stop the class for you and then you can continue, inshallah. Okay. Disliked after Ihram. Okay. Number 1 is fighting and arguing. Disliked. Isn't it haram? Start to say bad words and scream at someone. It could be haram in some cases, yeah? Why is it disliked? It can be haram originally and be even more disliked because of Ihram. So you get the sin of doing something haram and then also you get blamed for doing something disliked as well. So more than everything that's haram originally is haram and then it increases, it's more dangerous from doing Ihram. So Allah SWT says, فَلَا رَفَثَ وَلَا فُسُوقَ وَلَا جِدَالَ فِي الْحَجِّ. Don't even argue with it. Don't even argue. You're buying and selling with someone and they start to don't argue. Don't even start a fight. The worst fight I've seen in my life are in Hajj. The worst fights. Some hundred of Hajj many times. The worst fight I've seen is between 2 people organized Hajj for Hajj. They were there to serve Hajj. One of them literally tried to kill the person, swearing by Allah and kill them in the middle of Hajj. That can take away the majority of the reward of the Hajj. The patience, it's hard. The patience in Hajj is part of your Hajj. That's part of the struggle. Be patient. When someone's screaming at you, when you have someone, in some cases I've seen, like we had one of the guards throw water, so like you have to try to wake you up. If someone's sleeping on the side of the road or something, be patient. Don't react. Hajj is it's a learning experience. You've got to teach your nafs to have that patience. It's only once in your life when you have to. So it's also disliked to look at something halal that causes individual to feel patient. So between husband and wife, for example, it's disliked to a person to look at their spouse in a way that would arouse them, for example. In Hajj, you should leave all of those matters aside. Don't even think about it. Don't even talk about it. Yeah, just focus on your ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Similar to i'tikaf, yeah? Just focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They say it's disliked to scratch your head also. Okay. Scratch your head. Okay, because hair might. Well, if a hair falls out, what happens? Huh? No, let's look at how. What's video? How much is it? I think you asked me a question. Yeah. So for one hair, there's a small amount of food. 2 hairs until you reach 3 hairs. Once you remove 3 hairs from your head, then you have the whole sheep. Or the detailed conversation you can mention, inshallah. Brushing one's hair, the same thing. Yeah. If you know your hair is going to fall out, it becomes haram. You know your hair is very weak and it falls out, you can't do so. A lot of sisters, if they brush their hair is definitely going to fall out in the brush. They don't brush their hair. Tied up or just like it's only 1 or 2 days you have to be in Ihram. Day of Arafah and then the first day of the beginning of the day of Eid until you do your stoning and the sacrifice. Cut your hair and then eating and drinking in Tawaf. Eating and drinking Tawaf is disliked. Why? Because Tawaf is like salah, it's similar to salah, so we should obtain the basically spirituality of salah in it, although eating or drinking in our madhab doesn't break your. Now, important thing to mention here is that while you are in Ihram, okay, to leave Ihram, there's two stages of leaving your Ihram, finishing your Ihram, okay. The first stage is when you're in Ihram and they have Arafah, and the beginning of the Eid, okay, and then you do a few actions of the Eid that can be stoning the Jamrah, okay. If you're going to have a sacrifice animal, you sacrifice animal, and shaving your head, okay. Once you finish these rituals, you're allowed to go back into the state of wearing the clothes, wearing perfume, doing all the actions, other than having having intercourse, other than having sexual intercourse. That's of course forbidden until you finish tawaf. Until you finish tawaf and sa'i al-hajj. Once you finish the tawaf and sa'i al-hajj, you've done all of the pillars of hajj. All you have left is stoning Jamrah, yeah. But before you finish tawaf, you can't do that. So there's two stages, yeah. There's the tahallul. Tahallul means when you leave the ihram, when you become halal. There's the minimum, the minor tahallul when you're allowed to wear clothes and perfume, and then there's the major tahallul when you're allowed to have everything that you were practicing before that. So there's two stages. The last stage is only permissible once you finish your tawaf and sa'i. You finished all the compulsory acts of hajj, and all you have to do is just stoning the Jamarat and that's it. But before that, you can't do any questions. Nothing? Okay. All right. It looks like I'll just check the chat. If we try, we might be able to finish the majority of Hajj, if not all of it. Okay. No questions in the chat. أبو شجاع says فصل ويحرم على المحرم 10 أشياء: لبس المخيط وتغطية الرأس من الرجل والوجه والكفين للمرأة وترجيل الشعر وحلقه وتقليم الأظفار والطيب وقتل الصيد وعقد النكاح والوطء والمباشرة بشهوة، وفي جميع ذلك الفدية إلا عقد النكاح فإنه لا ينعقد ولا يفسده إلا الوطء بالفرج ولا يخرج منه بالفساد.
10 things are unlawful to a person in the state of Ihram. One must not wear stitched garments if male, cover the head if male or the face if female, apply oil to or remove hair, tear one's nails, use perfume, kill a game animal, contract a marriage, have intercourse, nor engage in sexual foreplay. There is an expiation fidya for each of the above, except for contracting a marriage, which simply is not valid. None of the above invalidate Hajj except for intercourse. Invalidating Hajj does not release one from the state of Ihram.
Beautiful. Okay, Bismillah. These are known as al-Muharramat, the haram things, Hajj. Put the microphone down because I think there's too much echo in the body. Okay, so these are haram when the individual does them, okay, intentionally. Someone intentionally does these things, it's haram. He gets a sin every time he does them. It's a sin. And then there's a detailed answer when you have to compensate or not, okay? Regarding fidya, compensation, there's a bit of detail. So if the kind of action, okay, is an action of destruction or removal of something, of hair, of a part of your nails, for example, okay, then fidya must be paid. Fidya must be paid. There's a compensation that must be paid. We just mentioned it now with karam, yeah? Even if it's done unintentionally. So fidya doesn't really have anything to do with doing it intentionally or not, yeah? In this in this section, this part of the Muharramat, the ones that have removing and stuff. Also, if someone does it, he doesn't know it's haram, he does it also, like fidya, yeah? This includes cutting your hair, hunting, cutting down trees, shaving, trimming hair, nail cutting, these kinds of things. There's a conversation whether you did it intentionally, like you did it, meaning that you did it consciously on. Now, if the haram act is only a gesture of luxury, okay, there's no removal happening, then it must be done intentionally with knowledge, or else there's no compensation. Okay, so wearing some clothes, for example, yeah, someone's sleeping and a person puts clothes on you, yeah. Or you just forget you're on Hajj and you just put clothes on you. Khalas, remove it as soon as you remember. Wearing perfume, okay, being intimate, even having intercourse unintentionally forgetting doesn't break your Hajj. Doesn't break your Hajj. Okay, the Shafi'i madhab. Okay, what are the things that are haram in the state of Hajj? Abu Shuja mentioned the majority of them. These are the detailed ones. Okay, wearing clothes that fit a part of your body for men. Not only sewing clothes that fit a part of it. So the better, the accurate word for this is al-muhit. Something that fits a part of your body, not al-muhit, not a sewn clothes, yeah? Something that fits a part of your body. It's made to fit a certain part of you. So that includes pants, shirts, hats, socks, gloves, shoes, male skirt ihrams. You know those people, they sew the ihram into a skirt, the elastic band. Seen that? You see it in Hajj a lot. That is haram according to all form of that. Yeah, you're not allowed to have a skirt ihram. So that's sewn according to around your waist. Totally haram. Yeah. It has to be unsewn, and then you just tie it. Okay. Things that are not considered fitting, ihram. The ihram itself, that's not fitting properly. Yeah, it's allowed in ihram. Clothes that are tied around your waist, yeah, or thrown on your shoulders. Shoes that have the toes showing. Belts are permissible in ihram. Yeah, rings are permissible in ihram. Umbrellas are allowed in ihram. These things are all permissible in ihram. Now, the second thing is covering a man's head. Covering a man's head with anything that is considered to cover, whether it fits your head or not. Yeah. So if someone wears a cloth on their head, khalas, that's haram. Yeah. Whether it fits your head or not. As long as that thing is considered to cover. If someone just, if it's not considered to even cover your head, then it's not. But if it's considered to cover a tissue, a cloth, anything that covers your head, khalas, that is haram. Covering a lady's face is something that touches the face. So if something's not touching the face, it's okay. In the old days, people used to wear niqab. What they do? In books of fiqh, they would wear they would get this kind of subhanallah, metal, wooden box that I put in the head that has it comes out and then they cover it. Similar to a cap. Someone wears a cap now. So if someone wears a niqab, can you wear a cap and put the niqab down, which is very hard. In these days and ages, a lot of scholars say if they just wear the niqab, then they pay fidya and khalas, because it's very hard to do that today. But generally, originally, it's haram. It's haram to wear anything that touches your face, anything for a lady, anything. Okay. So if she had something on her face, she would have to make sure she holds it away from her face. Covering a lady's hands with gloves is also haram. Removing even one hair from the body. Removing a nail from the body. Applying oil to the hair or beard. Okay. Perfume, sexual intercourse, getting married or marrying someone else, hunting, slaughtering camels, sheep, and goats and cows is not hunting. Hunting is when you go out and hunt. Of course, and fishing is permissible, but there's no fish in Mecca, so that's not an issue. Damaging the plants and agriculture of the haram is also haram. So you don't harm any plants. There's only a few plants that we can remove, which is mentioned in larger books. Okay. There's only one that nullifies the Hajj, which is what? Having intercourse intentionally while remembering the person is in state of ihram. This breaks the Hajj. Okay. If someone does it, they have to give a kafara. they have to give not a sheep, a camel, okay, badana, which is a lot more expensive than a sheep. Complete the Hajj they've nullified. Can't just stop. You have to complete it, even though it's not doesn't count. Okay, and immediately do Hajj the next year. Immediately do Hajj the next year. Can't wait. 3 things person has to do if they do this. They break the Hajj this way. Okay. Abu Shuja, after that, he says, وَمَنْ فَاتَهُ الْوُقُوفُ بِعَرَفَةٍ تَحَلَّلَ بِعَمَلِ عُمْرَةٍ وَعَلَيْهِ الْقَضَاءُ والهدي ومن ترك ركنا لم يحل من إحرامه حتى يأتي به ومن ترك واجبا لزمه الدم ومن ترك سنة لم يلزمه بتركها شيء.
Omissions during Hajj. Someone who omits standing on Arafah is released from performing Hajj by performing Umrah instead. Such a person must perform a make-up Hajj and slaughter a hadi. An integral is not released from his Ihram until he performs it. An obligatory action must offer a sacrifice. A recommended action is not required to do anything on account of the permission.
Okay, so the next important fact that they mention is someone who misses Arafah. Yeah, you're going to Hajj, but Fajr, the day of Eid, the Adhan of Fajr on the day of Eid was called before you entered Arafah. Okay, what do? You change your Hajj into Umrah. Okay, make an Umrah. Okay, and you make your Hajj up, and you also do a sacrifice. You do these 3 things, and that's called the Bab al-Fawat. In books of fiqh, they call it Fawat, the missing, the section of missing Hajj. In larger books of fiqh, it's a big section. Okay, if you leave out a Rukn, a compulsory part, okay, so you leave out what? If you leave Ihram, then your Hajj doesn't even start, yeah? But if you leave out Tawaf, for example, and you go back to your country, you have to go back to Mecca and do Tawaf. There's no, you have to go back and do Tawaf. If you leave out Sa'i, yeah, you have to do Sa'i. If you leave Arafah, that's mentioned here. Details are mentioned here. So if you don't cut your hair, if we say that's a pillar of Hajj, then cut it even at home. You trim your hair, but you have to do the arkan, the integrals of Hajj must be done, and there's no excuse to leave them, basically. Okay, leaving something that's wajib, like you said, there's compensation in most cases, but not all cases. And leaving something sunnah, there's nothing they have to make it up. The last part of Hajj in this book, okay, is the section of Dimaa. Dimaa means blood, sacrifice, okay? And there's 5 different types of sacrifice that are done in Hajj, okay? And there's a whole poem about different Dimaa in the Shafi'i madhab that they mention. And there's books written on this also. In this beginning class, I don't want to go into too much detail because in Hajj, the majority of us, the only type of blood they have to sacrifice is maybe doing something that's Muharramah, like removing a hair or something like that. But inshallah, we're just going to read through it, inshallah ta'ala, and then we just might make 1 or 2 comments and that's it, inshallah ta'ala. I won't read the Arabic because it's long. I'll just ask people to read the English, inshallah ta'ala. There are 5 types.
There are 5 types of obligatory blood sacrifice during Hajj. A. For omitting one of the obligatory non-integral rites, it is according to the following order. A Shah, if one is not found, then fasting 10 days.
What's a Shah mean? Sheep or goat? Sheep or goat is for Shah.
If one is not found, then fasting 10 days, 3 during Hajj, and 7 when one returns to one family.
Like mentioned in the Quran, in Surah Baqarah. Yeah.
B. For shaving and use of luxuries, one must choose one of the following. Number 1, a Shah. Number 2, fasting 3 days. Or number 3, giving 3 saw of food, 6.09 liters in charity, distributed among 6 of the poor. C. For being held back from completion, one is released from Hajj and required to sacrifice 1 Shah. D. For killing a game animal. 1. If there exists a game animal similar to the one killed, then one has the choice of giving a camel, cow, goat, or sheep when it is analogous, or 2. Appraising its value and buying food of the same value that is given as charity, or 3, fasting 1 day for each mud, 0.51 liters of food that the amount would have purchased.
Okay, so this is, in Surah Ma'idah in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, not to hunt when you are on Ihram. It says, وَمَنْ قَتَلَهُ مِنْكُمْ مُتَعَمِّدًا فَجَزَاءٌ مِثْلُ مَا قَتَلَ مِنَ النَّعَمِ. If you hunt while you are on Ihram, you need to pay a similar animal, goat, sheep, cow, camel, of what you killed. So some animals have similarities. What is similar, what isn't, this is mentioned in the detailed books of fiqh. Okay, and that's how you do it. You give the animal or the amount of that animal basically in sadaqah, like you mentioned. Yes.
E, for
if a similar does not exist.
If a similar game animal does not exist, then one I gives its value in charity, or to fast 1 day for each mud, 0.5 liters of food, 0.51 liters of food that the amount would have purchased. E, for intercourse, it is according to the following order, and only the male must make the expiation.
So in the Shafi'i madhab, intercourse, generally, the male is the one who needs to make expiation, whether it's in Hajj, whether it's in Siyam, in fasting, because the action is done by the male. So the expiation when fasting in Ramadan or in Hajj is done by the male, which is paying the fidya and doing all the extreme consequences.
E, for intercourse, it is according to the following order, and only the male must make the expiation. 1, a male or female camel. 2, if one cannot be found, one gives a cow. 3, if one cannot be found, one gives 7 sheep or goats. 4, if sheep cannot be found, then the value of the camel suitable for sacrifice is appraised, and one uses the value to buy food which one gives in charity. 5, if one does not find this, then one fasts 1 day for each 0.51 liters of food.
It's a lot of fast.
The amount would have purchased.
So how many liters would we have from a camel? A lot, yeah, a lot.
Giving food and performing an expiation suffices only when it is given in the sacred precinct.
So it's even more restricted. The expiation of this is very severe, very severe. You can't just give it anyway.
It suffices to fast wherever one wishes. It is not permissible to kill game within the sacred precinct, nor to cut its trees.
No.
This ruling is the same whether or not one is in the state of Ihram.
Alhamdulillah. That is the whole entire section of Ibadat. Alhamdulillah, and congratulations to everyone for waiting and holding on. Alhamdulillah. That's, you can consider nearly half of it. Alhamdulillah. And these are the main details of fiqh you need to know as a Muslim. Alhamdulillah. This book, inshallah, is significant for Muslims to study and not study anything else the rest of their life. Inshallah. Khalas. Inshallah, you won't be questioned on the Day of Judgment about not learning your deen, inshallah, when it comes to fiqh. So, alhamdulillah, that is Hajj. And I didn't think we'd make it to the end today, but alhamdulillah, I'm also prepared, alhamdulillah, so it's good. Inshallah ta'ala, we will have a test. Is next week good, or is it not enough time to study, to revise from the beginning of the book to work? Okay. Is next week good for everyone? No. Okay. Well, let's say in the chat if anyone will vote, inshallah, just now. Okay. If you want next week, put your hand up. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. In the chat, if anyone, there's 9 people in the chat, so let's see. I'm happy to wait a week and then do it, inshallah. Also, it's fine. So it's a lot of revision that we have to do. In the beginning of this is what, the 17th class or 18th? 17th class, so I think. So you have got 17 hours of content to study.
You were suggesting we can revise together. How could we do
that? Yes. I was intending that next week, if we finished early, we'd spend maybe there's some time revising, but because we finished now, do you guys want to get together just to revise? But what's going to be, it's going to be just flying through like the book kind of, I don't know. You want that? Okay, so next week we might have a short test. Let's say just a revision session. It's not compulsory to attend. Yeah, it's not compulsory. Maybe half an hour, something like that. 40 minutes, half an hour, inshallah. And what I guess I'll do is I'll just get the physical book with me. We'll open the Zoom for brothers if you want to use Zoom, inshallah. And I'll just go through some important points in every section, inshallah. Instead of taking a whole entire class, inshallah. So we won't even need the projector or anything like that. We might have it here, but like I said, we don't need to just bring our books and we'll just maybe a few important points here and there we'll talk about, inshallah. Any questions quickly, and then the last week after that we'll have a test, inshallah, and then we'll pause for the summer holidays. And next year, inshallah ta'ala, we'll start a new class in the second section of fiqh, which is in Mu'amala, transactions, inshallah ta'ala. We'll look into how we're going to do it. It might be every fortnight, it might be, because transactions, it's a bit different than ibadah. And I guess we might even do a new announcement if anyone wants to join from the second half. It's like a separate ders, inshallah ta'ala. It's recommended that someone studies the whole entire thing, but if anyone wants to join from the second half, they're welcome, of course. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll look into the logistics throughout the summer holidays with Allah ta'ala. Probably end of January or the beginning of February we'll start, inshallah ta'ala. And transactions, like I said, it's important, but not every single section of it is as important as ibadah. So buying and selling is important. Riba is important. Nikah is important, for example. Okay, so some of these sections would talk in detail, other ones would go through quickly, inshallah ta'ala, so that we don't spend too much time. Inshallah, we try to finish the book in as short time as possible. Inshallah, then we can either do another book or start the book again, inshallah ta'ala. So we try to see how we can do it in the most function, easy way, inshallah ta'ala. خلاص, then next week, inshallah, if everyone wants to attend for revision, whether online and class, inshallah ta'ala, we'll just be reading through some important points from the start of the book until the end, inshallah ta'ala. The week after, we'll have a test, inshallah. We'll have a test with Allah ta'ala, and then we'll stop for the summer holidays with Allah ta'ala. And that would be the 9th. No, next week is the 9th, yeah? No, the 9th. The 9th will be our last class, inshallah. The 9th of December, inshallah. 10th of December. 10th of December will be our last class, inshallah ta'ala. Inshallah. Okay, inshallah ta'ala. All the best. Sallallahu wa sallam ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.